And we are live.
Hello, hello.
Hello, everybody. How are you guys?
Excited. This is going to be a fun one.
Totally didn't almost miss this.
No, no. I mean, you almost did. Right at 6 o'clock.
Look,
Roger.
look, blame Pal World. I lost track of time, okay?
To be fair, when I saw you streaming, I was totally willing to pop in about a quarter till saying, like, hey, just a reminder, you gotta make it. So I would have given you a heads up.
I am not going to lie. I completely forgot what day it was,
That's fair.
and then I lost track of time.
Yep. Oh, I get that. But
Mm.
yes, hello and welcome everybody. I am your hostess Zoro from E3, and I'm here with my lore masters Rojan and HB Fox, and our guest for today is Tiltbot, where he will be joining us for the entirety of the show. As the topic for tonight is something quite fun that I also knew Tilt probably would get a kick out of as well as we discuss villains and antagonists, basically their tactics, motivations, how we approach playing them, and everything in the like. So, as always, of course, I like to open up the floor first to either Rojan or Fox if they would like to ask a question. Otherwise, I've got some lined up that people have asked. But I always like to put it to the floor first. Or Tilt. It's not the second half yet. We don't have to ask you character questions yet. If you have a question too. Otherwise, I do have a small handful of questions from people already.
Well, we're all DMs here, so I guess question for each one of us. When you're approaching a story and you know that it needs an antagonist or a villain of some kind, what is your first step? What is your thought process in beginning to develop someone or something to fill that role?
Rojan, you have a ton of them. Do you want to go first or do you need a moment?
How dare you? um, so a surprise to nobody, but much like a lot of the campaigns, the villains in my games aren't pre-planned. They sort of begin to mold and are fleshed out as the campaign goes along, and are basically created and then introduced based off of the paths that the players take. Now, I have ideas for like future villains or things that I want a villain to be able to do, or powers that they may have or whatnot. But when a campaign comes along, I don't necessarily plan out a specific villain before the game has started, because I know all of you, I know everybody who plays, and the villain that I initially would want to do something may just get completely ignored in regards because you guys decided that you needed to press a shiny button.
Yeah, happens often.
Yeah. So in that sense, I let your actions dictate what the villains are going to be.
So in that case, when you're developing based off of the actions of the players, how then do you go about deciding how to develop that character or creature that the players have either prompted or interact with, or in some cases probably wronged in some way, to create the villain out of them? Do you see an interaction from the players and then go, oh, that character they interacted with would be great to develop this way? Or do you just try to continue putting that character in front of the players as a point of conflict until something bigger naturally develops from it?
It's more of a natural development, because I may introduce a character to the group that is like a complete and utter douchebag. For some reason, the group loves them, and they interact with them in a kind way to where it doesn't make sense that guy is going to be later on down the road somebody who's gonna try to kill them or whatever reason. So like every NPC that anybody comes across in my games has the ability to become an antagonist, or, you know, in a broader scale, the main villain of a campaign, or at least of like an arc. So it just all depends on the interactions and the situations that the group gets in with this NPC. It's like, are they just a one and done, or it's like, do they seem to have some sort of either positive or negative sort of building blocks that are just falling into place? Best example I could think of is for Ventrix. Like, that dude was supposed to be a one-shot, like one-off, like, hey, I sacrificed this group of merchants in order to save my ass. And he just started yeah, exactly. Spiffy hates that guy. He just slowly but surely began to work into the story and work into the narrative. And then you all found out what his initial backstory was. And then everybody's like, yeah, I gotta kill this guy.
Yeah. Look,
I mean,
he could have been the worst person ever. And we're like, okay, yeah, he's a bad guy. But the second you said that he was the one behind Tyrus, we're like, we gotta kill him.
I mean,
he's dead.
Okay, because of his backstory, he has always been a bad guy. But if he's turning into a villain, it's because of Spiffy, let's be honest.
He's just had enough of Max kicking his door in every 5 seconds.
I mean, to be fair, we have a essential lich vampire saying he's a douchebag. We have a demon saying he's a douchebag. So he's got history. So to be fair, it was already coming.
Anybody of any sort of considerable power is just like, ugh, fuck that guy.
That guy.
You know, this coming from a reincarnated vampire who had tried to previously enslave the world as turning them into just a species of undead. Hates this guy.
Just every reaction we've had is just like, ugh, I'll help you defeat him for free. Jesus Christ. What about you, Tilt? How do you go about creating your villains? Your process?
I'm a little different. So, I don't work. I mean, I'm kind of like Rojan in the sense that I don't work necessarily in a linear process when it comes to creating villains. But for me, I create the villain more from the essence of what I want this guy to be before I start thinking about how to fit them into the player interaction or the story or that sort of stuff. So I don't want to say I'm more methodical, but it's more a matter of, okay, what kind of antagonist am I looking at creating for this particular story that I'm putting together? Do I want something semi-relatable that they might get attached to? Do I want to make something that's evil for the sake of being evil and enjoys being evil and gets off on being evil and there's like no ambiguity about what type of villain this is? Do I want an anti-hero? Do I want an anti-villain? Do I want to build... So it's not that I put them in a box preemptively, but when I build them, the depth that I give to the character will reflect that subclass, subcategory of villain, if you want to call it that. And the reason I do it that way is not to railroad the players or anything, but it's to give clear opportunities of interaction with different flavors of character, if you will. Most of my stories have at least 3 or 4 villains baked in right off the bat, and it kind of, like Rojan, is a question of, okay, well, what are the players going to hook on? What's going to interest them? And then I'll finish fleshing out some form of a general direction to the story based off of what my players get hooked on and what decisions they make. You look at Tales of the Outer Rim, and by episode 3, I had to bring a bunch of new villains and rewrite half the story because some players decided, hey, we're gonna kaboom the artifact item that we're supposed to escort out of here. So, not that it's a problem.
Calling Gilly out. Wow.
Oh, 1,000%, 1,000%. I will call her out until the days end. But the interesting part with that though is you know, I'm the type of player and GM, I hate saying no to my players. So, you want to blow up the artifact? Cool. Consequences, obviously. having to readdress the story in a different direction as a result. Also, obviously, not a problem though. Plenty of other villains in the back pocket. But yeah, I'm a little bit like Zoro in the sense of being a character. I don't want to say that word on air, but you get the idea. And I love building, customizing, and coming up with characters. So almost every character that I build has a fully fleshed out character sheet, stats, spells, whatever, you name it. Like, I build this whole thing out like it's a monster manual almost. But it's what makes it fun for me. And obviously we'll adjust to the strength of the party and the level of the party and all that. But having a structure behind my villains is something I've always enjoyed doing, just for the sake of I enjoy building bad guys.
That you do.
Just a bit.
Fox, what about your process?
Mine is kind of an amalgamation of both of those styles. I mean, we haven't seen it too much on the channel because I've mostly just run one-shots or mini adventures, and those tend to be pretty linear. But we'll see it a lot in the Sonata campaign, where I tend to create antagonists for the story that's being told beforehand, but their involvement in screen time essentially is really dependent on the players. Like, they're still in the background doing all the dastardly things that they want to do, but whether or not they actually get involved in the player's story is up to the players. And how the villains, the antagonists, evolve and grow or don't is, much like how Rojan approaches it, entirely dependent on the decisions that the players make throughout the story. I do also really like to refer to them more as antagonists instead of villains, because I think the word villain often has kind of this like black and white implication to it, where it's like, this is clearly the bad guy doing bad things, we got to stop them. But an antagonist is a little more gray area type of thing, and I think we kind of saw that a little bit in Sonata 3, how I like to approach that with Eugene, who was very clearly a villain in Sonata 1, but when you guys encountered him in Sonata 3
And got his
and
backstory.
went to his hometown and saw that he was there supporting the town, protecting the town, he had a family there, he had children there, he was just a guy, but he was also very clearly the antagonist in the player's story. So I like to make them feel like real living people, as opposed to this big bad guy on a pedestal that you gotta kill in some way. And that how that evolves and changes with the story is dependent on the players. A villain could very easily turn into a valuable ally depending on how the story goes.
Yeah, that's mine is pretty much a mix of all three, to be honest. It's very much, when I create a story, I essentially make sure, okay, who's the big bad? Who's like the ultimate big bad? Just so I know at least where the goal is going to be at some point, depending on your guys' choices, their motivations, whatnot. So I start off small like that, just very direct. Okay, who's my big bad? And then depending on how the story develops will determine what they end up doing. The characters' decisions will influence their decisions. And then I'll create like 2 or 3 more villains to be just kind of a bump on the road, whether it's not always connected to a character's backstory, but sometimes they are. Sometimes it's just kind of a fun little character, a little obstacle for you guys to overcome. And then pretty much a lot of antagonists at that point. It's like, yeah, this person's bad, but depending on what you guys do, it could go a step further, or maybe you guys just go, ignore them, and, it is what it is. Or in my case, you guys just created a villain in EP. So that was something I didn't expect, so I had to create that. But I do like using boss, like higher CR kind of stat blocks just to get an idea of what makes things challenging, and then of course adjust it to how I want it to fit that villain. But seeing those pre-made stat blocks definitely helps me kind of figure things out, just so it's not super OP or unbeatable for you guys. Definitely a challenge, but not unbeatable, of course. And if they are, then I always like it to make it a puzzle. It's like they're not invincible. You guys just have to figure out what do you need to do to defeat them. Case in point, Vera's backstory. She has Sibius, who is not a villain in my eyes. He was definitely an antagonist, depending on where you guys went with him. And he had this, what seemed impossible barrier that no matter what you guys did, couldn't get past. Well, now that's a puzzle. You guys were able to figure out what you needed to do to get past it. And then, of course, the story went in a completely different direction. But I always like doing that, where it seems like, wow, she just really hates us. No, there's a puzzle. You guys just have to solve it. So, and I just, my brain just works that way. I always like doing a puzzle, even if it's super simple. Just, hey, if you do this one thing, you guys can figure it out.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that approach. I think environments are very underutilized in battles, and I myself am guilty of that as well. You can create what seems to be an insurmountable obstacle, but if the players are clever enough to look at certain aspects of their environment, they might find the solution to overcome that obstacle and continue with the battle.
Exactly, yeah. Kind of like hello. She's just like something simple as like the creatures that kept multiplying every time you guys killed them. You guys were able to figure it out pretty quickly, but I was like, oh, this is going to be a problem for them, to the point either they're not going to figure it out and decide to run, or they are going to figure it out and go from there. But of course, by the time you guys did figure it out, they were kind of already multiplied, so it's like, okay, overwhelming, we gotta go. But again, there was that puzzle of, okay, we found it. You are a little stinker. And that's always been my approach to a lot of things, and that's something I'm having a lot of fun doing with the next campaign I'm gonna do that some of you are already aware of. Same thing. Just immediately went to the big bad. What's there gonna be their motivations and complications, and what you guys need to do to figure it out.
That's actually kind of fun, because I've actually been doing something similar with the whole Shadow Scar and Yokai thing, and funny enough, because of how those two universes are very prone to merging with one another as far as the lore goes, I might actually have both of them be in the same universe type of thing. And not to go on a tangent, but the villains of one might end up being the heroes of the other kind of thing.
Yeah. While Zoro is busy, I do have another question for everybody here. When it comes to the players encountering the villain in combat, and it's, an intelligent villain, it's not just a mindless monster bent on destruction, but they can actually think about tactics and think about how best to approach situations. What sort of approach do you prefer to take with that? Do you like to just go all out and have the villain unleash all their power and just beat the shit out of the heroes? Or do you prefer to make a more tactical approach and have villains utilize their surroundings or utilize minions or something to that effect?
I normally I kind of like doing a 50-50 approach in that sort of thing. If the villains are in control of whatever's going on, if they control the battlefield or they control the situation, it's more of an intelligent approach to things. Traps, throwing minions at them, wearing their resources down, maybe beating them to a point to where they're forced to retreat. Not in a means to kill them, but a means to rub their face in it, that they are not strong enough to face them and they are nothing. But when it gets to the point to where the group has the villain, their back is to the wall, there's like no means of an easy escape, all their resources have been depleted, that's when they just turn everything to 11 and just unleash as much hell as possible, and either to kill the group and get away, or wound them to enough to, again, they run and they can get out, or they just kill everybody and, you know, new campaign starts. But I necessarily don't like the villain to go all out right off of the bat. You know, give them a little bit of, you know, presentation, give them a little bit of, like, they aren't just a mindless, superpowered hulk of a human being. It's like they've got money, they've got resources, they got minions. Use them, and, you know, only get their hands dirty when they necessarily have to do it themselves.
That's the approach I mostly go for, except it depends on the character. The perfect example would be, God, I forgot her name right off the bat. She was the Ardak Yakshi that was going after Athelia. So she pretty much wanted to present her power right then and there. She didn't want to mess around. It's kind of their nature. They sometimes like to toy, and other times they're just like, yes, unleash my power. So she immediately was like, no, let's fuck up your friends so I can focus on you, and we're not going to be bothered while I have my way. So, otherwise, yeah, I'm kind of right there with you, Rojan. I'd rather kind of just either use the environment or minions or some sort of ability over and over, just so they don't show their true full power yet, just to kind of toy with you. Obviously, if it's some, like, creature in the wild, it's like, yeah, whatever, they're gonna do their thing. But if it's an active villain, then yeah, kind of tease and toy, use what's around them, and then when it's time for a battle to come out, then unleash everything. I know Tilt is kind of like that too. He likes to do a lot of toying.
It depends on the context and the situation. I mean, yes, you know, case in point, if you look at Todor, the whole Tatooine segment was literally the two main minions of the boss just putting pressure on the party the whole time. Not to kill, but just to stress them out consistently, to remind them that, hey, my boss is angry at you, you better show up to that meeting. Hey, my boss is angry at you, you better show up to that meeting. Until, you know, eventually things went in that direction regardless, but, you know, very much like a crime lord would do, and it's telling two bounty hunters, hey, bring them back to me alive, you know, so putting a lot of pressure on the party, but not killing them because you were told to bring them back alive. But this is where it changes a little bit depending on the context too, where, see, for me, the way I see it, it also depends on the villain's motivation and not just the players and the player's motivation, right? So if the players have something the villain wants and that justifies keeping them alive, then yes, the interaction is going to be very different than if the players, I don't know, destroyed a very precious artifact that the boss needed to accomplish their plan. Then they're going to be a lot more angry at them and most probably want to just wipe them from existence. So I think it also depends again on what decisions the player have made and basically what the quote-unquote hidden, you know, rage bar the boss has with regards to the party, if you want to use gaming terms. But long story short, that's kind of how I like to approach it. It's what is the boss's motivation, what is, or antagonist, call them whatever you want to call them at this point, but what is the antagonist's motivation, what is their plan, where are they at with regards to their plan, and how does the party fit with regards to interacting with them at that particular point in time. You know, you bump into some random schmoes in town that are trying to stop you from grabbing something, and you just brush them aside, and they're like, oh, we're the heroes, we'll save the day, and the villain's like, well, who the hell are you? I've never heard from you. It's going to be a very different reaction than, oh yeah, you guys who've been foiling me for the past, 17 years, I'm sick and tired of your crap, we're going to fight to the death. So I think it just kind of depends on, again, where we're at in the story and what the repetitive interactions the party have had with the villain, and as a result, what state of aggravation is the villain in by that point.
Yeah, and I think that's a good approach to take, having those kind of unseen triggers for their actions, rather than having just like a set idea of how they're going to act in a situation before the situation happens. Having a villain that changes and adapts and reacts to not just the other players but the other situations around them it goes a long way to make it feel like an actual person rather than just a generic villain.
And that's actually, sorry, a super good point. Sorry, I'll just 2 seconds and I'll give you back the mic. But that's another thing, a hidden thing that I don't really tell anybody, but I'll tell everybody here since it's the whole lore and it's a fun thing. My antagonists grow along with the party. So usually, whenever you decide to fight anything in any of my campaigns, there is a probability of victory. It's very rare that I'll throw you guys into a fight that is designed for the players to lose or obligates them to run away. I'm also a player, not just a GM, and that's one of my pet peeves as a player. Whenever you're in a situation and it's like, yeah, no, either you run or you all die. I've always found that to feel a little too black and white, too one-tone, if that makes sense. And I like there to be a little bit more depth to that type of situation, whereas it's not like, yeah, you guys walked into the abode of a god and you're gonna get one squished, you know? Like, it's a little more depth to it than that, for me, personally. I'm not talking like when the story forces you to do that kind of stuff, but like when you're at a point where the player just kind of has to make that choice of, do I try to do something, even if it's just like, you know, break the mind control artifact before escaping, you know, but give them a little something so that fighting a villain doesn't just feel like this foregone conclusion of, oh, we bumped into the BBEG, run away. I like giving the players a little something to do in that encounter, that if they do run away, they at least run away with some form of a victory, an item, a something, just because it's not like a complete waste of their time and effort in that particular interaction, if that makes sense. Not because I feel like players have to be rewarded and patted on the back, but because, again, I just like it when the story could go either way based on dice and stuff. Sure, the villains will be overloaded, they'll have more abilities, they'll be designed with legendary actions or whatever because they're fighting alone against a group, so it'll balance itself out, massive health pools. But you're not going to see my villains one-tap a whole group of players because, oh no, they bumped into the BBEG and decided to fight him. However, the flip side of that is the longer the story goes on and the higher my players' levels, the higher the BBEG has had time to train, has had time to learn new things, advance their plots, develop new abilities, new artifacts, new whatevers. So by the time you bump into them again, yeah, they might know Meteor Swarm by that point. Yeah, they might know how to, you know, swap souls or power Finger of Death or whatever. And so at that point, obviously it's going to be a lot more of a complex encounter than how it was when you first bumped into him, because yes, it's logical. If the heroes are getting stronger as the time goes on, so will the villain. So it's a question of what do you want to deal with and when, for me, more than a matter of, you know, locking a villain into a particular box. All right, sorry, I ranted, but yes.
I don't have PTSD at all from Finger of Death. Several of my characters have experienced that.
Yeah.
One
Hey,
somewhat
look,
recently.
Just because I like Finger of Death and Power Word Kill a lot.
It's usually against my characters, though. The first time I encountered that was as Ash, and I was terrified. But thank God, I was just over 100.
You have a tendency to be one of those characters who is always right up in the face of everything. So of course they're gonna target you. And it's like, oh shit, it's the fighter. She's got 87 attacks. Power Word Kill.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
my
fair.
favorite bit about Power Word Kill, it is very easily managed by silence as long as you can keep the silence up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Silence,
Yeah.
counterspell. A quick jugular punch, you know, anything.
Anything that does not let them say the word.
Yeah, pretty much. So we actually do have a lot of questions from people. I'm just going to go with the first one I saw in chat before I lose it. From Gilly saying, do you guys keep track of what the villains or antagonists are doing in the background while the players are doing their own thing? Or is it more you set when they are coming into the story? For me personally, I do keep track. Not all of them, but the ones that I deem important to the story, that the players had made a difference with, or their actions have influenced. Those I keep track of. Very much so, especially with like the big bad right now. You guys have been doing a lot against same thing with Sabius. You know, I was keeping track of what he was up to, even now after Fox like talked to him and everything. I also keep track of certain NPCs as well to see where they're at, that the players have either befriended or influenced as well. Biggest example is Arleo. I am definitely keeping track of what is going on with him, where he's at. That's why there's been a couple times you guys are like, "Hey Arleo, what's up?" and he hasn't replied, because there's certain things that are going on that obviously you guys don't know about, so he's not going to be at your beck and call. So yeah, it's not all of them, but definitely the ones that had the biggest impact or influence from the players' interactions with them, or what they have done that directly influences them. I definitely do that.
I will say that every one of the villains or antagonists, or whatever you want to call them, that you come across in my games, they have clocks.
Yeah.
And they are working on those clocks as you guys are going through. And it's like, there could be something as simple as you all were tasked with going to a mine to find out what happened to the workers that were down there. And depending on how long you take is going to directly influence what happens down there. And this goes all the way up to the big bads. The best one that I can point out here is Withered Waste. There are 2 major clocks right now in motion for all of you. One is the whole corruption and trying to find a means to get to the crown, and the other is the whole mother situation. Both of those are on like a continuous ongoing clock, and as you guys are going through, at like the end of every rest or everything, I'm making checks to see how far along that clock progresses, and once it gets to a certain point in time, something happens, something kicks off.
Yeah, there's definitely I know a lot of GMs, and I'm so thankful that you guys do this as well, is that you kind of drop hints, or at least breadcrumbs, that things could be happening. So at that point it's more of a matter of priority. Case in point, you've definitely hinted, hey, things are starting to happen in Raskin's Folly, so you might need to speed it up. It's like, okay, cool, well, we're gonna die if we just walk in there, so we need to like find ways to help us, which thankfully falls under the mother tree situation. We're like, okay, cool, we actually might find ways to help, so when we do get into Raskin's Folly, we're not gonna die instantly. So yeah, but the breadcrumbs are definitely there. We're like, oh shit. But it's nice when a GM does do that. That way, you know, we're not just sitting on our hands going, it'll be there when we're ready. Yeah. So not always.
And it's definitely not a means to punish the players for taking too long in doing something. It's just a means of like story progression. And like once like as like the clock progresses and things happen, it's small things. It's not things like, oh, this town just suddenly blew up because you stayed an extra week in town.
Yeah.
It's not going to be something that catastrophic right away. Like you're going to start seeing things. You're going to start seeing things happen more frequently, or the corruption starting to spread, or something that's giving you a hint that, hey, shit's going down over there. You need to focus on, you know, getting X taken care of in order to prevent Y.
It's a nice slow burn instead of just, hey, if you guys don't get your shit together in a week, world's gone. And it's like, oh, we're level 5. Okay.
TPK.
It's like, no, it's a nice slow burn where it's like, okay, we do have a task we need to focus on, but it doesn't feel like it's got to be tomorrow or you're all dead. So it feels nice. It's a nice pace.
If that was the case, and I was like sort of like that kind of jerk DM, Withered Waste would have been done a long time ago, because y'all have spent weeks in game, and you've only hit like 2 or 3 towns.
Yeah.
Because every time we keep getting further, we're like, shit, something's
You-
happening back. We gotta backtrack.
You haven't even made it to the like the eastern part of the map yet.
We're trying.
You
We're trying. Twice we've tried. We're trying for a third time now.
So I am a little bit of that jerk DM in that the story continues whether the players are there to see it or not. And it's not just my antagonists and my villains that are continuing with their own story while the players are doing what the players are doing, but it's the world as a whole. You know, there may be a town on the complete other side of the continent that is having a disaster happen to it at the moment, and if the players happen to go in that direction and see it and intervene, great. If they don't, well, they're never going to hear about it until after it's done. They might hear some gossip in a different town about what happened to that town, but you know, things are happening everywhere in the world all the time, and it all progresses with time. But I'm never going to put in a situation where there's something like really dire and important and story ending happening that I'm not going to tell the players about. I will put that information in front of them and they can approach that however they wish to approach that. And it may be related to something that the villain or antagonist is doing, or it may not be. It may be a completely different storyline that's happening on its own. But everything in the world is always progressing at all times.
Which feels very realistic, because that's just like now. It's like, if we made a certain decision, how does that affect me? How does that affect something else? Well, it's still going on, regardless of what your decision is. So it feels very real.
If I was running a campaign that was meant to be more lighthearted and have more jovial tones, then I maybe wouldn't take that approach to it. I'd make everything in the world more player-centric. But in the case of like Sonata, which is going to have a lot of very dark and very grim tones to it, I want that to come across in the world. And I want the players to encounter situations where they know they could have intervened if they had been there, but they weren't there. And so disaster struck.
What about you, Tilt?
So I'm a bit of I'm a bit different. So I've got key events that are gonna happen no matter what. In the sense that like I'll have those key events be timed to some of the things that the players are doing. So like take Totoro for example. I had it set that after you guys had explored, that's the word I was looking for, explored a certain number of planets, the Empire was going to invade the Republic, especially around Tython and some of those core planets. And that was going to happen no matter what, but that was happening based off of the number of planets that you guys have currently explored. So you could explore them in whichever order you wanted, but eventually once the story had progressed to a certain amount, those key events were gonna quote-unquote unfold, if that makes sense. However, I also have a second layer of events that are completely based off of the choices my players make. So in this particular system, there's the whole light side, dark side thing. So based off of those choices that the players make, there are going to be certain responses and certain, certain evolutions, like local evolutions, small things that'll happen, again, based off of the choices the player have made. And then there's those key events that'll happen, but they're more, again, time-based, if that makes sense. So it's not just something is happening somewhere in the world and you know, they'll hear rumors about it, or they know they could have been there to stop it or whatever. I mean, that's for anything, but it's also here, this particular thing, there's 4 different potential outcomes, and then depending on what the players choose to do, you'll have 4 different potential outcomes that'll end up happening. It's very much like the original Knights of the Old Republic games that I have it running, but that's because, you know, we're running a system that's essentially based off of those particular games. If I'm doing D&D, for example, yeah, it'll be maybe a little bit different because alignment is maybe not as embedded into the actual lore of the world, if that makes sense. But when it comes to Star Wars, yeah, I mean, dark side, light side, all that stuff is very much embedded into the story. So I have certain markers that are alignment dependent for events and towns and whatnot. So again, everything that happens and is kind of being recorded, and at the end of the game, I always do that in my end game epilogues. You get a little bit of a what's the word? A little bit of a, well, this is how this place was affected by you guys passing there. This is how that place was affected by you guys passing there. Because yes, there's some stuff short term you guys will see while you're there, but there's also some stuff long term that my players won't know until maybe tens of years after they're passed. So, and again, of course, some of those stuffs I'll show, some of them I won't, depending on whether or not we're revisiting that universe too, right? If it's a multi-campaign universe, I'll just tell it in the next story. But yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
I have a fun one from Siba. Who is your favorite villain that you have created in any of the campaigns? Rojan, that might be, you've had a lot of campaigns, so that might be as a much bigger.
Choose your favorite child. That one is hard, though.
Do you want us to come back to you?
Well, it's just because there are so many villains. I'm going to stop saying villains. So many antagonists that you all have come across in like a multitude of our campaigns. But I think right now, favoritism is leaning towards the Jinn that is just making Kylus's life an everlasting hell. Because this isn't a villain who is doing it because they were wronged, or they are doing it because they're trying to, right a grave injustice and they just went down the wrong path. This is just an asshole being an asshole because he can. And it's like, sometimes it's just a nice refresher to just have that antagonist that comes in and is just there and being evil for the love of the game. Yeah. Not really because like they had a tragic backstory. They used to be a good person and they lost themselves along the way. No, just sometimes you need the villain who's just there to hate.
Yeah, not all villains have to be complex, for sure. Some of them are just assholes, and sometimes that's why you hate them more. You're like, oh, they're just having fun, and this is their idea of fun. Fuck that guy.
It's just the love of the game.
Yeah.
Well, and villains like that, very clear villains like that, are often a really useful tool for creating unity in a group as well, because it kind of forces everyone to come together against this person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tilt, who is your favorite villain that you've created?
So, I have the same problem a little bit as Rojan, because I've created a lot of universes and a lot of bad guys. Obviously, most of them before my joining Behold Roleplay, so most of them you won't know. But here's the thing. For me, a story is only as good as its villain. The taller the mountain that the players have to climb, the more rewarding it is when they finally get to the top, And so, in that respect, I'm, again, going to kind of paraphrase Rojan a little bit here, but for me, villains who are bad just because is probably my favorite type of villain. An example that people here can somewhat relate to, because he did show up on cam, I mean, antagonist, villain, whatever you want to use the word, but was Wadu the Hutt in Star Wars. And the reason for him is because, I mean, if you think about it this way, I won't nerd too long, but just to make it simple, Hutt culture is its own thing. What most people would find aesthetically pleasing, they find repulsive. you know, they view themselves as inherently superior to all other races in the universe, and for them that's just normal. It's not a matter of good, evil, bad, whatever. It's just, no, this is how we are. Our language is the most beautiful, our people is the most beautiful, our home planet is a damn garbage swamp and it's beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, for them, in their head, that's really how it is. It's not a matter of good, evil, or anything like that. Taking slaves is normal, doing this is normal. So all these things that other people tend to see as being evil, they just look at as normal. You understand? And so for me, that's, you know, one of the hallmarks of a good villain. It's not, like you said, complexity or whatever. It's, they're doing it because for them, that's normal. That's what they do. And it's not even a matter of, like, you know, necessarily getting off on doing something bad and knowing that it's bad, or exercising their power or anything like that. It's just, no. You know what? Bison. For me, it was just a Tuesday. You know what I mean? You'll remember this till the day you die. For me, that was just Tuesday. It's a normal thing for our people.
What about you, Fox?
Unfortunately, my favorite villain that I've created is one that hasn't really appeared on screen yet, because it's the one that's gonna be like the main point of contention in Sonata.
Okay.
Because it really leans into my love of the gray area, so it's gonna be forcing a lot of moral and ethical choices on not just the players but the continent as a whole, and that's my bread and butter. I love that so much. But as far as characters that have appeared on the channel, and although I would not describe them as a villain anymore, and they certainly didn't start out as a villain, at one point they were, and I would have to say Cassius.
I was about to say that.
Now I would certainly describe him as an antagonist, like a cross between an antagonist and an anti-hero. I mean, he is doing a lot of good things in the background, but he also has no qualms about just glassing an entire city to get what he wants. So he's doing a lot of bad stuff, but there is some good as well. So he's not a villain anymore, but he certainly was at one point. I think at the height of his Zatrot fueled power, I would have absolutely described him as a villain. He was doing very bad stuff, and he was thoroughly enjoying every second of it. I mean, at one point he was, although it only lasted for like a day, he was even a lich at one point. So, you know.
And I'm sure he loved it.
Temporary lichdom.
Yep.
Mine is kind of the same as you, Fox. My favorite villain you guys know of, just haven't encountered yet in Mass Effect. Because I personally like how I built Tulmus. But again, you guys haven't found him yet. You just know he's done a lot of really bad shit. But yeah, so he's my favorite that I've created. But if we're talking about someone that you guys have seen, again, there was a lot of antagonists. You guys haven't really, maybe 1, 2, maybe you've caught like actual villains. Everyone else has just kind of been an antagonist. So if I had to choose one, it would be Dr. Barbara B. from the N7 Day One Shot.
Oh, yep.
The Barbie on the T-Rex, the Cyber T-Rex.
Yep.
Just because it was funny. It was just really funny to create her.
I think that's also a good example of a villain that doesn't need to be taken too seriously in its creation and in the way that you see them. You can still have a villain, but make them goofy and weird and an overall joke, and it still be a really, really good point for the story.
Yeah. I think Fox technically answered this next one from Siva. Have you ever had a player's character become a villain, or the character become too powerful for the campaign before it comes to a close? definitely Cassius, as we mentioned before. Otherwise, no, I don't think. I mean, I don't want to say Nile was a villain. She was a space pirate, but she wasn't really.
Unhinged.
She was unhinged.
She was just unhinged.
But she did. You guys weren't able to see it, but she actually did have a pretty big heart. She just did not show it that much. She was just kind of living her own free life in a somewhat selfish way, but not to the point to where if she saw a village burning, she'd be like, not my problem. But if she knew someone in it, she'd be like, okay, yeah, we need to get our asses in gear and do something about it. That's probably the closest character I have to be a villain. Otherwise, no. No.
I tend to try to like not use player characters as villains, because at times, and most times, it puts the player of that character in a very awkward position, because it's now no longer this is just a character that the DM is playing. You are now introducing turmoil not only between the characters, but the players at the table as well. And depending on the maturity level and the experience of those at the table, that can easily and very quickly ruin a campaign. It could ruin a group. I've seen groups break up over it before. But like with Cassius, Cassius did some, Geneva checklist stuff at times. But he still he was villainous, but at the same time, he wasn't the main villain. He just had villain tendencies, and those tendencies actually kind of sort of helped the group in a way, because it became an opposing evil force against Zatrot, to where it's just like, no, you're not allowed to have the power because I want the power. Not because I want to save the world, but because I want that power for myself.
Yeah, I feel
and it was just,
like
it became the lesser of two evils in that situation.
Yeah, and it feels like, for me personally, I definitely agree with that, Rojan. Me personally, though, if I wanted a character to turn into a villain or be kind of like an asshole to that level to where they're villainous, I almost feel like the rest of the group kind of has to be at that level. Otherwise, I feel like I'm personally hindering the group. So unless we're all kind of like that, or we're all playing, just shitty people, I can't do that, because then I feel like it would derail the campaign or turn the party against me, or I'd hinder the party. So it kind of has to be a certain set of people with that same type of character archetype to make it work. Otherwise, I feel like it's a short campaign. Or short
with
character
that
arc.
said, there is one situation where I do love having the players be villains, and that's in our Halloween games.
I was gonna say that's what I was gonna mention earlier. I was like, the Halloween games was great though.
Well, that makes sense. That's a one shot. That works.
Yeah, that I love doing it in our Halloween games, because it's just a horror trope. It's like, oh, you got possessed, you're now the bad guy. Have fun.
And it is fun.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite moments on the channel still is the reaction from everybody in our Halloween game when I shot Spiffy's character.
Yeah, when I was like, I know how to use a gun. Great, shoot. Oh my God. It was great.
But I do actually have an answer for the question that isn't Cassius. Well, a potential answer. They didn't become a villain. The campaign came to an end. It was the first Withered Wastes. Callie, she, after becoming one with Felmos, was their name, an offspring of one of the Forgotten Gods.
Yeah.
There was an unknown amount of power there. And the campaign came to an end, so we don't know which direction that took, but the potential is absolutely there for her to have either gone on to do wonderful, lovely things, or just being a horrible, horrendous person.
I'm
the
noticing a
abilities
pattern.
were there, the power was there, and when it comes to players leaning towards villainous tendencies, I think really it's entirely up to the player to be responsible with the power that the DM gives them. I think it's okay for one particular player in a party to have a ludicrous amount of power or really kind of mechanic breaking abilities if they're responsible with it, if they have the trust of the DM to not use that to derail and break everything.
I just noticed.
It's not
with
always
your character.
possible, but I think if that sort of relationship can happen, it can be a useful tool for the story.
Yeah, and a good chunk of your characters just have a tendency of fusing with old gods. So
it's
Third
not
one?
something I
Is it the third
actively
one?
pursue.
Yeah,
but
third one.
yeah,
it does.
and then dated one
happen.
or mated with one. So yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's like
3.5.
Cassius made a pact. Callie made a pact. And
Chloe.
Sylvia. Yeah, sorry, Chloe.
Oh, and
drank
Sylvia?
blood. Chloe just, decided, I'm going to drink this blood that I got from the SCP Foundation. Nothing bad could happen, right?
Yep. So
I mean, in
Stop
Cassius's
it.
defense, he was after power. In Callie's defense, she was just trying to give this thing a chance at a good life. Chloe has no defense. She's just Chloe.
yeah, well, we'll see how far Sylvia gets. I'm shocked Vera hasn't done anything yet.
There's still time.
There's still time, yeah. Tilt. Do you have a character that you felt like was a villain or had the potential to become one?
Do you even need to ask?
It's Cannonball. Yeah. Yeah.
If anybody was going to betray that group, it was Cannonball.
Yeah.
So, see, funny enough, no. And I think I'm a little sad
Yes.
because Cannonball was one of those characters that was very, very much misunderstood by everybody. But Cannonball was not evil, or didn't even have really the potential to be evil. He was more desperate.
Just said.
No, hear me out. He was desperate.
Yeah.
And the problem is desperation will make you do horrible, horrible things. Like turn your soul into a timeshare shared by a bunch of eldritch gods and horrible tentacle monstrosities we don't need to mention. He'll try to care for his crew and the people around him and try to help them, but if he sees the ship going down, he's using one of those wishes and getting the hell out. He's a bit more pragmatic, and he's desperate. He has a goal, and he's going to do whatever the hell he can to see his wife and kid again. That's the only thing he really cares about. Yes, he'll be nice within the limits of where he can be nice, and when he can be nice, and he has that luxury, he'll do it. But if he doesn't have that luxury, he doesn't have the remorse of, oh, I should have been nicer, or I should have done this, or I should have done that. It's no, I'm still trucking along towards reuniting myself with my wife and kid, and that's the only thing I care about. And unfortunately, we never really got into his backstory, so none of that really got exposed. But he always did little things to try to be nice in every episode to at least one of the crewmates. It's just, there was something bigger at play as far as he was concerned, and so, yes, niceties when possible. Yes, good-hearted when possible. But pick between crewmate and wife and kid, I'm picking wife and kid. You know what I mean?
See, I thought you said he would do anything in his power to get his dreadnought.
I mean,
That's
that
what
too.
I thought you were going to say.
That too. But
I was like, is his wife and kid the name of the dreadnought?
Yes. No. So here's the thing. The dreadnought was it turned
It's called
into a
My
bit
Family.
Of a Yeah, right?
I need to find my
Did you see on the
family.
side of the ship? Mi familia. But jokes aside,
Where's my family?
suddenly he loses all of his hair, you know what I'm saying? He wears a white wife beater. But jokes aside, no, the Dreadnought, the reason he was so hell-bent on getting one of those things is because, as far as he was concerned, the Hag Cauldron had something to do with his family disappearing. He killed the Sea Hag, things turned ugly, he got back to shore after his ship crashed, and he somehow managed to basically drift unconscious on a piece of wood or whatever back to where he came from, to just see all traces of his wife and kid, including the memories of everybody in town, erased. He was the only one who remembered his wife and kids. Now, whether he actually had a wife and kid, or it's the Hag's curse that made him think he had a wife and a kid, and they never actually existed, and so on and so forth, are things that we're not gonna really know because unfortunately that story went to poof. But he wanted that Dreadnought to go flatten the cauldron. He needed something big enough and strong enough to go wreck that Hag Coven so they would stop trying to torment him. That, and in his head, if I kill them, my wife and kids reappear. Again, whether that's true or not, whether that tragedy happened or not, completely other story, but that's the motivation he had behind the Dreadnought. He actually wanted the damn thing to go flatten the Hag's Cauldron.
And now that Dreadnought is somewhere adrift in the ocean without a captain.
Yup. Well, I mean, again, he had to... Look, this is between you and me, Rojan. We'll probably disagree with this until the end of days, but he had 2 silver coins that were basically wish coins. If that ship was going down, he would have gotten the fuck out with those wish coins.
Oh no,
Guaranteed
I fully expect him to just said, fuck it, I'm out. And it's not that Cannonball died. Nobody just heard of him again. He just...
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I'm just saying I don't know where he is or what he's doing at that point. That's maybe a funny story we could talk about for some other day. If ever you want to use him as an NPC for something, but...
They're just going to come across him in the middle of town. Some, like, random pirate-looking guy just rambling on about his glorious dreadnought that he has to find.
You know, he just sounds like some crazy old coot who's trying to beg you for a piece of gold to get a drink or something. You know, yeah, who knows? You know, again... He's weird. He's a weird character, and because of that unpredictability, because of that desperation, I think he's definitely one of those characters that could have very easily committed horrible things and turned villainous, quote unquote, for the sake of the ones he loved, but he didn't have that moral compass to stop himself and say, hey, you know, is my wife and kid worth all these atrocities I'm gonna commit? That he was lacking in that particular department, which is why he made so many deals and basically turned his soul into a timeshare, but again, that's another story.
I do have a question from Shellhound. Do you have any advice to a rookie GM on playing a villain and having them seem like they're still in control even when the players have effectively gone through everything with greater ease than expected?
I do have a tip for that. Treat them like an 80s cartoon villain, i.e. Skeletor. Like, treat them to where, like, He-Man, they have their master plan laid out, whatever they're going to do. They send the henchmen in to do it. Players walk in and just roll everybody's face. It happens. Like, really good rolls, or they may, be a little bit too strong. At the end of the day, the henchmen got their butts kicked. The henchmen did their job, and that may influence the decisions or the plan of the big bad at the end of the day, to where it's like, okay, they're doing X, I need to do Y in response, and now they're powering up their armies, or they're powering up themselves, or they're searching now for a grand artifact to go against the players the next time. But it's just definitely treat them like an 80s cartoon villain. 80s cartoon villains get their asses kicked all the time, but they always come back. They always, no matter how many times you see, Skeletor get his ass kicked by He-Man, he's always coming back with another plan, another scheme, another something to get either back at him or taking over Eternia or whatever. No matter how many times he gets knocked down, he gets right back up and is at times even more powerful than he used to be.
I also have a piece of advice that is not a complicated piece of advice. It's more on the mechanical side of a villain, and that is give them two things: teleport and counterspell. Don't use it to snatch victory away from the players, but if the villain is clearly losing and you don't want that story to end there, teleport, counterspell. They can get out of the situation, they can regroup. It takes that upper hand away from the players, and you have to include counterspell because guaranteed somebody at the fucking table has counterspell and is going to try and stop you from teleporting. So counterspell the counterspell. But it's a real easy way to like exponentially increase the survivability of a big villain, or even if it's not necessarily like the BBG, just like a major player within the story that's about to go down. You don't want to lose that trigger for certain events, so you get them out of there.
Adding on to that, of it being a bit more simplified, this is if a villain is defeated and need advice for next time after feeling out the group. Case in point, my situation where I thought I had a very challenging giant bird, and it barely lasted a round and a half because everyone kept freezing it and like paralyzing it, and I just couldn't do shit. So it barely lasted 2 rounds.
And then an 8-year-old with a pistol got the kill shot.
And just, so, if there's one thing I've learned from that, one, we were still filling out the system. You're definitely much more OP than, say, like, D&D at that point when you're level 4 or 5, like, the ridiculousness you can do. So what I learned from that is kind of adjust and make them, I don't necessarily want to say more ridiculously more powerful, but make them to where they'll have abilities that seem kind of crazy, just to sort of balance the crew's crazy, but obviously still match them so they're not like super OP and unbeatable. Like if they're not meant to be a major player character for the story, definitely just create a villain that seems pretty crazy and ridiculous with their abilities, but only so they can last more than 2 rounds. So you feel a little better about yourself. At least that's how I go about it.
It's really tempting to always give villains and bad guys abilities and stuff that do a lot of damage, but don't discount those utility abilities like teleport, counterspell. In the case of the bird, freedom of movement would have been crazy good to stop it from being held in place all the time.
Yeah.
Misty Step, great for getting out of binds and stuff like that. So give them just as many utility abilities as you do damaging abilities.
I will say this, give them utility items as well.
Yeah.
Give them smoke bombs, give them magical items that they don't need to waste a spell slot on.
Yeah.
Just that it only pops up when they need to get out.
Yeah, and not every character is going to be magically inclined. So if you want to give them something that is the effect of a spell, give it to them in the form of an item or a piece of armor or a potion or something. You can still give them magical abilities without it being magic. I mean, artificers, that's what artificers are. So you can do that sort of thing and take that sort of approach while giving them all the utility that they need to survive these types of situations. If you want them to survive, again, don't use them to snatch away victory from the players.
Yeah.
Just use them to progress the story.
Another great thing to add on to that too is perfect example. There's no counterspell that doesn't exist in Mass Effect, which is a little bullshit, but it is what it is. Unless you're full on biotic, no one can just randomly do it. So case in point, there is a bullshit spell that there's nothing you can do about it. You're just trapped in a little bubble for like 10 minutes. And there's literally nothing you can do. And
sorry.
It's bullshit. It's bullshit. So when I was trying to create a tough battle and someone who will not be named decided to use it.
Call me out.
I said who would not be named. Used it against a giant robot that's about to explode. Obviously, not all of my villains are going to have this ability, because I'm not going to rob you of being clever, but I still wanted to be a challenge, so I had it just no teleport. So it teleported out of the bubble. But the best part about that was I was satisfied that its crazy power still went off, and it actually did a lot of damage. It actually almost killed 1 or 2 players. But the coolest part is as satisfying as that was for me as a DM, I was so excited when someone used an ability to reverse time. So the explosion still went off, but no one was killed, and now this creature's just there with no power up, and now it's just back to being normal. So it's very satisfying for the player too, saying like, hey, I was still able to do something. So it's very much a give and take. It's like, you can have fun as a DM, you know, don't be power hungry with it, definitely have some fun with it, but, you know, definitely don't punish your players for being clever or, you know, utilizing their abilities and stats to a very clever method. So, yeah. But fuck that spell.
So, 2 things. First of all, Disrupt Biotic is a tech power at level 2 that will shut down most of those things. 2, I did notice...
That's the problem.
Sorry?
I said robots don't know biotics, though. That's the problem.
This is a tech power. This is not a biotic power. This is a tech power.
Oh, well, they don't know powers, but
yeah,
good to know.
Just to say, but yeah. The other thing too that I want to get at that wasn't really mentioned by anyone, because yes, you know, you can do the whole treat your villain like a player character, and give it extra abilities, extra powers, extra whatever. You can scale him. Not necessarily mid-fight, but adjust him mid-fight based on what the players are doing too. If there's one thing, like Zoro said, that's getting too oppressive or too obnoxious, like the disruption bubble, you know, that's another option too. So there are multiple options that can be applied, but I'm going to name one that hasn't been named yet, and it's good old Phase 2. So that's another thing too. If your party is bombing through your boss, you know, way too easily, another thing that you can do is the old trope of, this is not my final form. Maybe don't do it 4 times like Frieza, but have the boss power up mid-fight, or even have the boss die, and then you know, your party's happy and they're looting and they get some gear and they get some stuff from having killed your boss, and then you just hear this sickening crunch, and then the torso of the boss rips open and some weird parasitic alien thing sticks out of their torso and starts engaging the party as Phase 2. That's another option, right? And then you realize the boss was actually the victim of something else or whatever. So that allows you to have a story twist, a plot twist, and a Phase 2 for your boss if the first boss was too easy, to challenge your players now that they might have actually expended quite a few resources on that quote-unquote first phase. So that's another way to kind of not necessarily regain control, but regain a little bit of initiative as a DM to kind of re-engage with the group if they were having a bit too much of an easy time because you made a mistake or you didn't necessarily scale the boss appropriately after a recent level up and the power spike your players had was way too high compared to what you expected, or, you know, stuff like that. It happens all the time. But this allows you to adjust on the fly with more than the just old, like, oh, we'll just give them more damage, you know, give the boss more damage or give the boss more HP, or this still allows you to have, you know, story progression while still kind of adjusting the focus a little bit. That's just, you know, an extra option that hasn't been mentioned, but that could be fun to do as well.
Look, Rojan does that every so often, and every time he says, oh, now it's time for Phase 2, as a player, I'm both excited and terrified. Because I'm like, oh, that wasn't it? Oh, no.
Yeah. That's because every, like, main antagonist / boss fight / into the arc fight that I do is specifically designed to be like the fights in a Final Fantasy 14 raid.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be just, oh, you downed him once. Nope, here comes Phase 2. Yep. Oh, maybe it's got a Phase 3. And it's like, oh, you're all fucking around now, so, you know, here's the enrage timer. Have fun.
I mean, you did in the Final Dragon in Campaign 2 of Destiny Forge. You had 3 phases, and I was like, oh god, we're still going. Oh no.
Why isn't it dead?
It's not dead.
And a lot of the stuff in the vault was phase based as well, which was a lot of fun and made you or made us as players really consider how we wanted to approach those encounters, what resources we thought we needed to save and what we needed to use.
I will say, I really
Yeah, 'cause you
hope
don't know.
I really hope you guys go like searching for the vault in a new era.
Oh, it's gonna
Oh,
happen.
we're going
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Great
I
wants
will
to.
it's happening.
drag everybody there if I have to.
No, you know I want to go there too because random artifacts and cog thingies. Yeah, we're going there. Don't worry.
So I kind of did this on purpose. You know, I'm the moderator. We've already been at this for over an hour, and we're not even at phase 2 yet. But I technically did it on purpose because I wanted to get through everyone's questions because we got so many questions this time around, and I wanted to make sure everyone got theirs answered. So normally I'd say, is there anything else? But because we've gone over an hour, I'm not going to, except one question that I've just been dying to ask Rojan.
What?
Why don't you like to keep your big bads dead? Because they keep popping up across all campaigns. They are never dead. Why?
Because true evil does not die.
How dare you, sir?
Because at the end of the day, evil fuels people even through death. And you can beat them, you can knock them down, you can kill them, but at the end of the day, they're just gonna come back.
Sounds like heroes, not villains.
It's like fucking Vincent, Zatrot, there's all these people just won't die.
To be fair, none of the old ones are technically killable.
That's true.
That's
fair.
You can suppress them, you can knock them out, you can do things to make them go away for some time, but at some point in time, they're going to come back. Hence why Ichirai's whole thing now is standing in ever-present vigil over the body of Zatrot, because all anybody has to do to wake him up is pull that dagger out of his head and he's back. So it's just like, but with Vincent, again, he's somebody who's technically obtained lichdom, and even in that case, you don't know if you actually destroyed his phylactery. You destroyed something you thought was his phylactery and were told was his phylactery, and he acted like it was his phylactery. Doesn't mean it was, because I think that's something that that's a thing that a lot of liches don't do, is they don't lie about their phylactery. They all freak out because somebody has the item in their hand or whatnot, and it's like, oh, we have your soul, break it, goes back into them. Have them lie. You're a lich.
Oh no, not this pottery. No.
Yeah, false information. He's like, oh no, my soul is, in that favorite teacup of mine. And you break it, and then you kill him thinking, oh, we just saved the world. And he comes back in a couple days. And it's just like, no, that wasn't the phylactery.
See,
it's just them in the background doing this.
Instead of killing him, you should ram a stick all the way through him, put him on your back, and just keep him with you. Problem solved.
Ah, yes. The chaotic good barbarian.
You got
technique.
it.
They have to tell you if it's their phylactery, it's illegal. Otherwise, it's called entrapment.
Yo.
You have to tell me if you're a cop.
Right.
And I will also point out that as far as my understanding goes, at this point in the lore of liches, there's nothing that stops them from having more than one phylactery.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's an incredibly difficult and incredibly expensive thing to do, but it is possible.
But they have all the time to do it.
When you're an undead being with nothing but time and limitless money, it just takes time to gather the resources. But yeah, there's nothing stopping a lich from full on Voldemorting themselves.
I was about to say.
Yeah, and I've made that joke
Voldemort
before.
could do it.
I've made that joke before where I'm just like, we just found one of the Horcruxes.
Right.
Who's to say there's just one?
I will say though, you guys did come across his phylactery once, and you didn't even question it.
To be fair, I wasn't part of campaign 1. That's all, Fox.
No, campaign 2.
Oh!
I'm talking about Vincent.
Oh fuck!
I'm talking about Vincent. Like his phylactery was in plain view
Oh no.
for 80% of the campaign, and nobody caught it.
Was it me?
Nope. I'll tell you this. It was on the Sister Carnage.
Was it the damn slime that we found?
No, wasn't the slime that you found.
Well, now I'm gonna have to ponder that.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and run
I
through a
think.
mental list of everything that we had on that ship.
It's a potted plant. What the fuck was it? I'm gonna have to go back now.
Okay.
Really mean. And
I will-
the
I
ship
will
itself.
I will drop
Oh no.
this. I will drop this tidbit. It was because of time bullshit. He was able to place the item in the ship where you had found it outside the library. There was a specific piece of dishware that was inside the bar that if anybody had taken the time to like investigate the bar with a high enough roll, it would have stood out to them because it was just completely out of place.
This is
Swear to
why all
God.
my characters need to be alcoholics, so they spend time in all the bars.
I swear to God, if it was a decanter that had the initials VD on it, I'm gonna be pissed. All right, child is crazy. We're
Yes,
gonna go
he is.
ahead. It's just a little bit. You didn't even have that much sugar today. My goodness. Yes, we're gonna go ahead and go on a break. We went well over what we were supposed to, but again, I was having fun and we had a lot of questions to get through. So, we're gonna go ahead and take a little bit of a break. So get up, stretch, refresh your drinks and whatnot, and we'll be back to ask Tilt some character questions. So don't go anywhere,
I'm ready.
guys. We'll be right back. And we are back. Fox will be getting back to us a little later. He'll be back in like 5 to 10 minutes, so we can continue on from here. But just want to give you guys a heads up if Fox is suddenly just quiet all of a sudden, or black screened. That's why. So yes, we are going to get on to the second half of the show where we're going to ask Tilt some character questions. Or DM questions if people still want to continue with that. But Siva did ask a question of who is your favorite Behold roleplay character that you have created? Either one of your avatars or an NPC in campaigns for which you are the DM. What makes them your favorite?
That's a good question, actually. It's not an easy one to answer because, like Rojan said, this is like asking me which one is my favorite child.
I can tell you my favorite child.
Oh, go ahead. Ash?
No, well, yes. It's like hands down, favorite child.
Yep.
I'm surprised you didn't say Cannonball.
So, here's the thing. Yes, I really loved Cannonball, but I like each of my characters for different reasons. I try to make them as unique as I can for that exact reason. Right. Yes, that sometimes pushes them into the weird territory, as you like to point out. You know, I play a lot of atypical characters, but at least they're not, you know, copy-pasted off of one another, and that's why I make... Not saying that yours are, of course, but that's why I like to make them that way. But, I think I loved Cannonball... I loved Cannonball, not loved, past tense, wow. I love all my characters, but if there is one that I really, really like, beyond all of those, I can't really give you guys too much information about them, but the bounty hunters that were annoying you guys on Tatooine, I really like those guys for reasons that I unfortunately can't really tell you until you meet them later in the story. But if we look at the revealed characters that you guys have met so far, yes, I really do like Cannonball. I really do like... I actually really loved Grimm too. He was one of those funny characters that took on some seriousness as time went on and just became his own thing. So he was definitely a character that I very, very much enjoyed. And I'm very, very excited for Voidstar that you guys are going to meet in the new V6 campaign that's coming up. That's going to be a lot of fun too. You'll enjoy him, I think. So yeah.
Okay. Rojan, did you have a question?
Trying to figure out how I can word this.
Oh, okay.
As bluntly and violently as you can, usually is the best way with me.
Oh my. I was gonna say something, but it's inappropriate.
Which of your characters have you found to be the most difficult to play at times?
So if you're talking about just like player skill, roleplay skill, and everything, definitely Realm, just for the fact that I have to rhyme every goddamn time I talk.
That was your
You put that on
choice.
yourself.
That's on you.
You put that on yourself.
I'm not complaining about it.
I mean more as the character itself is such a clash as to you, like towards you as a person. Like it's like their decisions that they make or their personality is like a complete 180 of yourself, and it's just at times you find it a bit difficult to like step into their shoes.
That's a fun question.
So I'm gonna be a little disappointing there, Rojan, but I don't think I've ever really had a character do that to me, because when I play, I really do dissociate myself of me and really just kind of fully invest into the character. So it's very much like what the character would do, and what me thinks doesn't really matter as much, if that makes sense. No, I'm not a sociopath, but it's you know what I mean. But I'll feel my feels usually like after the game is over, if that makes sense. You know, like when I kind of reintegrate my shoes, and then when I get back in my shoes, then I'm like, oh, that's really sad, or oh, that sucked, or oh man, I wish that had gone different. Like, but that's usually like when once I've had the time to kind of distance myself and kind of pull my nose a little bit out of the character. When I try to be in character, I don't. I kind of try at the very least to put my moral compass and everything aside and not really like think what Tilt would do and really just be like what would Rom do or what would Grim do. Like,
That's
you know,
crazy.
the Grim thing was rough because yes, as a player I was like, get the fuck out, but I was like, the Grim would never leave a friend behind. Grim would never allow a Soul Forge to be around torturing souls. Grim would never there's way too many like catch-22s in that room. The player, I was like, yeah, you know, I know it's time to get the fuck out, but the character was like, nah, bro, we're staying. I'm like, all right, well, we're dying here, and that's just what it is. I'll die on this hill, and it was what it was. But that's probably maybe the only moment where there would have been very much a clash between like me quote unquote metagaming and what the character would do. But no, I just played the character the way he was meant to be played and the way he was built as a character, and that was pretty much the end of it. You can't really play D&D while taking it take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt, but you can't really play D&D thinking about aiming for a goal, because this is a story that's being told by so many different people at the same time that things are always going to go off kilter, right, as a character. So there's the DM, there's the other players making decisions, there's so many things. So I don't play my character going like, what would me, the person or the player, see as a consequences to these actions and blah blah blah, because you're just going to get the same character with a different skin every time I play the game if I do that. So it's really very much what would this particular character do, and then the rest is up to the DM and the other players. Obviously, you know, don't do the stupid murder hobo, kill everything and ruin the story for everybody else. That's not what unless, you know, again, I built a murder hobo and the DM said bring a murder hobo to the table. But like, considering if the character is balanced enough anyway, put it this way, mentally and as a character, yeah, I try not to play the game thinking of what's going to come as a response. I'm just like, well, if this character was in this situation and saw this horrible thing happening, would he step in? What would he do? And that's it. That's I leave it at that. After that, it's the DM tells the story, right? So I don't know if that really answers the question, but yeah, it's. I guess Grim probably was the one where the decisions were the hardest, because it's one of those things where I was like, yep, this is probably going to have some... Once I realized what was actually going on and the degree of what was going on, I was like, yeah, well, I can't really back out now. So yeah, that probably would be it at that point. But yeah, that's
I get
about
you.
it.
Welcome back, Fox.
Thank you.
Hey, hello.
Do you have any character questions for Tilt?
I do, actually, although this may be one that you aren't willing to answer. I'm going to ask it anyway. And it's in regards to Omen. I've been curious about what your plans are, or your desires rather, what your desires are for the character. Is there anything that you hope for them to have achieved or changed in some way by the end of the story, or at least by the end of their particular story? Or are you happy to have them just continue living out their quote-unquote life as this kind of disconnected, almost autonomous creature?
So here's the funny bit. I can't reveal too much, obviously, but I can give you guys 2 hints. One of them comes from the video game itself, and it's something one of the first Geth told the Quarians before they freaked out and tried to kill all of them, and it was, does this unit have a soul, right? And the other thing, too, is having been cut off from the rest of the Geth hive mind, he's probably the first Geth to have ever experienced individuality to this particular degree, if that makes sense. Because he's not constantly reporting to a hive mind, he's not constantly having his decisions filtered or tweaked or corrected or aimed to serve the greater Geth purpose. So in that respect, he's probably the first Geth to have maybe achieved a little bit this whole do I have a soul thing, because he has that individuality that's necessary, instead of being, you know, do we as a hive mind have a soul? And the fun bit with that is, as a result of that, he's able to experience things in a way that all the other guests would not. And that's pretty much where I'm going to have to let it go as to what he wants, because there is a very specific goal that he has, but that would ruin a few things if I went too direct about it. But think about it like this. It's like a child that Joe's just let out of the house for the first time.
Yeah.
And his entire thing is, wow, I get to see the whole world through my own optics here. And XYZ goal. So
Got it.
he's on his way for it, put it that way. He's on his way to it, just because he's allowed to exist the way that he's existing right now.
I have an odd question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I know we made a lot of jokes about it, but I need to know now. Was Grimm's beard sentient?
Oh yeah, it was an actual... Rojan confirmed that too, by the way, a few times during the on and off moments. So every time Grimm was quote-unquote having fun with someone in his room, he was getting his beard groomed by someone he was paying to groom and take care of the beard. It wasn't him actually having sex or any of those crazy fade to black moments. He was basically having his symbiote beard taken care of.
Yep. Grim was the beard all along.
Yep. The beard was Grim, not the dwarf.
The running gag that we had,
Yep.
or the running joke between us, was that if Grim ever died, the beard would have reattached and then found another host and attached to themselves to then become Grim.
That's disturbing.
Unfortunately, the beard got snapped by a god, so we never got to see the respawn, but it's still one of those cute moments. Hey, who knows? Maybe in the next in new era at some point, Nock is going to find a random beard that'll attach himself to him. Who knows? But as for,
A dragonborn with a beard?
We'll let Rojan ponder these crazy ideas, as he's the GM, not me. But it's the beard was Grim.
God, no.
Yep.
I do have another question, and I know I've asked this of you off screen, but for those who don't know, on screen, you tend to pick a lot of characters that are like elderly. They're older.
Okay.
or robotic. you tend to pick a lot of characters that are because people usually pick characters that are either younger than themselves, roughly the same age, or maybe slightly older. You, like, for example, what some people don't know about is that one of your favorite characters is Henderson, which is a really fucking old man Warforged. So it's like, why do you keep picking old characters and robots? Is it just something you really like to play with, or is there just something else afoot here? I'm genuinely curious.
I can tell you there's something else afoot, because if you will realize, a lot of those characters have the same family name. I can't go more into details about it, but...
Creating your own lore.
Warforged Henderson was a Henderson. Cannonball's family name was Henderson. Bill's name is Henderson. So there is a continuity with regards to all of those. I can't spoil it any further than this. But yes, there is something afoot with my character naming scheme. There's a reason why a lot of them are older. There's a whole story going on with that. And I think, yes, the DM will tell their story, but I think the characters and how they all click in to each of one another, if at all possible, also tells a story that ties into some old D&D campaigns I used to run in real life. So if any of my friends are watching this that have known me outside of this, hear those names, they're just going to be like, oh yeah, we know who that is. We know why all this is connected. We remember these stories that he's run for us. So there is a reason why all these characters show up and everything. It has no effect on the stories that the GM is telling us, but it's a fun little side story for those who are in on it. It's a sort of if you know type of thing. But yeah, that's it for the Hendersons themselves. Aside from that, though, I mean, there's still what's his name, Mr. Armstrong, who yes, okay, nanomachines, but still very much human and human looking. There was
robot.
Not really. No.
It's categorized close enough.
No, not even. That's like that's like
Agree,
saying that
disagree.
that's like saying
Technically,
that's like saying that Paige, because she had pheromones, was a plant.
technically cyborg.
Yeah, very, very sophisticated, I guess, if you want to call it that, because again, looks and everything are very
Robot.
far from the robot aesthetic, but just more like, yeah, your blood has funny little creatures running around in it, but again, that's a question of interpretation, I guess. I mean, Realm is not at all in that category either.
Well, no,
Lord
you
Star is
have
not
a
in that
handful that
category either.
aren't.
I mean,
But yeah, Grim was
but
an
yeah,
old man.
I mean, yeah. But again, so yeah, I'd like to think that there's a bit of a brochette going on there, but the old quote unquote old men Hendersons there are there for a reason. There is a continuity to them. There's a whole story that is connected to them. And if ever we run a Call of Cthulhu campaign, you guys might get more information on that link.
Because and not to sound like a terrible person, I genuinely
Mm-hmm.
get a little surprised when you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to create this
Yep.
character. They're like close to their
Yep.
mid-20s, and I'm like,
Yep.
you're making a young
fuck are you?
character?
Yeah, especially if it's bangable. What?
It's just,
A
what?
desirable character from Tiltbot? Who are you? Yeah, no,
Because
I
I'll
get you.
I'll get a message from saying like, your character's hot. And I'm like, I ain't banging no old man. No.
Right? hey.
No.
To be fair, I've never said that in a campaign necessarily where my characters were old. But
No, but it was
anyway,
funny.
moving on though, yeah, when it comes to that, if ever we do run a Call of Cthulhu game, you guys might get a bit of a wink to the whole Cannonball Henderson continuity, if ever we do end up running a Cthulhu campaign. Which, yes, the fact that it's from a Cthulhu campaign, but you'll get that information should be disturbing, and you should be asking yourselves questions. All right, next.
I asked a couple questions back to back. Do any of you guys have any questions you'd like to ask?
I do have one. It's a fairly straightforward question, I think. It's about Realm. So the party's kind of at a point where they're still, I feel like, establishing their connection to him. So there hasn't been a whole lot of like deeper conversations with him yet. But that doesn't mean that I, the player, am not incredibly curious about what's going through his mind and what he's feeling. So is there anything about the situation up to this point that you are able to share in regards to thoughts that Realm has about what's going on, or the people he's traveling with, or feelings that he's had about certain situations or decisions that have been made within the campaign that haven't made it to screen yet?
Without spoiling too much, obviously, a few things I can say. First of all, you guys will be getting a conversation about that fairly quickly, because Zoro and I have been very much waiting for a breather to cook a conversation between Raum and Kalis? No.
It's one day.
Fuck, I get it wrong every
Episode
time.
100,
Look,
someone will eventually
I'm
get his
French.
name right.
I'm French. When I see AE, it becomes
It's Greek.
Kalis.
It's Greek.
The Latin kicks in, and it does not become A. It becomes A.
Look,
So,
it's my
sorry.
dumb ass. The most common way to spell it is Kalis, but the Greeks also say you could switch it and do Kylis, and I'm like, ooh, that sounds fun, and no one can say it, so I'm like, damn it, should have gone with the traditional.
I mean, I can do Kylis. It's just, again, I'm French, so I just read it with the French Latin pronunciation.
Yeah.
And I'm just Kylis. So
Yeah.
sorry about that. It's not out of
No, it's
rudeness or
fine.
anything. I know I get it wrong
Everyone
every
else
time.
does
and I'm
it.
like, I'll get it right this
Everyone
time.
else.
No, damn it!
Hey,
Every
hey,
time.
I've never done it. Thank you very much.
So
But just to real quick, like, there's definitely no under the table meta going on, but I have mentioned to Tilt saying like, hey, I'm very curious about some things. Be prepared for like some questioning when the time is right. We just haven't had that time yet. But I'm like, ooh, I want to ask you some stuff in
the
game.
things that I can say, just to answer those questions, is A, Rom can relate to what Kalis is going through. That's one thing for sure.
Hylas,
Two.
go on.
Did I butcher it again?
Just a meme at this point.
Kylus, I swear. It's Kylus, yes. I have to respell it differently in my head. But yes. So yeah, no, Kylus, he could definitely like you know, relate to Kylus in that respect. Realm has a fun backstory that I can't tell you guys too much about, especially since Rojan hasn't really had that come and bite Realm and the party in the butt just yet. I'm sure it'll happen at some point if Rojan fits it within the story, but not necessary, of course. But yeah, there's definitely a lot that he can relate to with everything that's been going on, and that has definitely motivated him to stick with the party. He very much values his hedonistic capabilities of, you know, being on the planet and not in hell, and, you know, playing music and being on the mortal plane and hearing laughter and joy and all the good things, you know, instead of just screams of the tortured souls, or the, you know, orders of his ex-master. But he definitely enjoys his freedom, but he also understands people losing their freedom, not, you know, being able to be free the way that they want to be free. So there's very much a, without going into details again, there's very much a similarity between what Kalis is going through and what he's gone through in the past, and that's definitely made him want to stick around and help in that particular respect. So yes, he does have a deep motivation that kind of binds him a little bit to the party. He's just not very talkative about it unless asked directly, because, you know, he won't. So that's a funny thing about Rom too. At least to the party, he never lies. So if you ask him a question, he will give you an answer, but he's not going to volunteer the information unless it's asked of him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
For obvious devilry reasons, but yes.
Yeah, I am very much looking forward to getting to know that character a lot more. There's a lot of aspects about him that have come into play, but we haven't had the opportunity to dive deeper into. So I'm very much looking forward to those moments.
A lot of crazy happening.
Yeah, catch him at a tavern on a day where he's relaxed and you'll have fun. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, it's just kind of the situation since Realm has joined. We've had maybe like 1 or 2 days technically where we could have talked to you, but so much crazy has happened. We're like, now let's get some fucking sleep, and surprise, we didn't. So it's like we just need some time to pull him aside, say like, hey buddy, we don't know each other yet, but what's your deal?
I mean, look, I've IRL composed 2, maybe 3 songs that he would have written about each of the characters that he's been traveling with as he gets to know them. So yeah, those songs are there, they exist, they're fully lyricked and everything, so handwritten by yours truly. So yeah, they're there. He does definitely pay attention to the little details and all the things the party members do, and he does, you know, like any good bard, has a few epics written up about the party members that he has had time to see, interact, and do things with, which is not necessarily the whole party just yet, but hopefully, again, as the campaign goes on, he'll get to see some of the other characters do cool things, and those 2 will get added, and they'll each have their little songs by the end of the campaign. But that's a fun little side project I've had running for that character this whole time.
That I hear non-stop, and Spiffy will love this. Kylis' song is about him getting laid. So,
not just that, but yes.
Well, the chorus.
It's the fact that we keep trying to get him laid, and he keeps dumbing his way out of it. But yes.
That would actually have to, you know, happen after he decides, you know, to finally, you know, remove the stick out of his butt.
It's been mentioned in there too. Don't worry, it's all.
It's a comfortable stick. He's okay with it right now.
Right.
I like what Sophie said. Oh, so it's lies.
Basically. I mean, I am a bard. There's some good embellishment.
Yeah, I was gonna say bards are known to embellish.
Yeah. Have you not seen Witcher?
Including in Max's song too, which I'm sure he'll enjoy when he hears it for the first time. But it was quite funny.
Oh yeah, Max's was badass. Mine was like, hey, let's get him laid. I'm like, damn it.
Well, again, it's because he hasn't seen much out of Kylus yet. And here's the other thing too, Kylus a lot of what Max of what Rom knows of Kylus, I'll get there. He got from Max when they were out drinking.
That's
so
not great.
It's a skewed perspective too. You have to take that into consideration.
It's not great.
No, it is not.
He's a tortured soul with a stick up his ass. We need to get him laid. It's probably all you
Pretty
know
much.
about him.
Pretty
From
much.
Max.
Yep. So yeah, just to say there is a little bit of ongoing, story that I'm running on the side with that too. That's kind of, just a funny little side project that I have with Realm. But yeah, that's all I can tell you for now anyway when it comes to Realm and bonding with the rest of the group. But it will happen, and he is very much aware and paying attention to everything that you guys are doing.
So we probably have time for about 1 or 2 more questions. Did you guys have anything else you would like to ask?
I tend to ask this of everybody, Tilt.
Yep.
But what is the one character, like the one character archetype or character class that you have always wanted to play, but it's never seemed to fit into any of the campaigns that you join?
I've played the game too much that I've actually ran each of the classes at least one of the campaigns. Maybe not all the subclasses, but at least all the main classes at least once. I think the only one I'm missing. Let me pull up the actual list here.
Oh,
He's got an achievement list over here.
Oh yeah. I've got my own Geneva achievement list over here. Let me see. I've done Cleric, I've done Bard, I've done Barb, I have done Druid, Fighter, Monk, Paladin, Ranger, Rogue, all that's been done. Sorcerer, Warlock, Wizard has been
all
done.
the classes.
Have
you done Blood Hunter?
I think the only one I'm missing I've done them in one-shots and whatnot. I have not done them in a full-bodied campaign, if you will. Would be an Artificer. And they're fun, and I wish I could, but I think that's the one class that I've never full body campaigned yet. And I think it's because a lot of the times when it came to the rules, they were either in the rules, not in the rules at the time. I feel like they were very much in and out of the rule set, and I think it just never timed properly that I could have one at that particular moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, right now I'm playing, a Clockwork School Wizard that pretty much functionally functions like an Artificer, so I'm still getting my Artificer fantasy, just not with the label stamped on it, put it that way.
Yeah. Fox, did you have another question?
Actually, it kind of ties into Rojan's question about the characters that you have played and the classes that you've played. I know you've multi-classed a lot, across various characters.
Yep.
Sometimes to Zoro's detriment.
Cannonball was a nightmare, I'm sorry.
Fitting 3 fucking classes in one card? Jesus Christ.
I'm not a multi-classer myself. I like to go all in on a specific class, but I do always like to get the insight of people that enjoy multi-classing with their characters. Do you have a tendency to do that more because it fits the personality of the character that you're playing, or do you like to kind of theory craft the class that they could be and then kind of naturally push them in that direction into the multi-classing as a campaign progresses?
I do both. I will imagine... So I'm a weirdo because I'll imagine what the character looks like by the time he gets to level 20, and I'll be like, how would that person embody reaching the end game, if you will, of D&D or any other system that we're currently looking at? So that's something I do because I enjoy theory crafting. It's not like gremlining to get the most min-maxed bullshit possible. And sometimes, yes, I'll bump on something absolutely broken in the process. But usually, as Rojan knows, I'll DM him and go, hey, by the way, I found this thing. You might want to watch out for it. It's a little cracked. And then sometimes and then sometimes we'll accidentally bump into it like we did in Daggerfall, was it?
Daggerheart, yeah.
Daggerheart.
Daggerheart, there we go. Sorry, well, I don't want to keep saying Daggerfall, but yeah, in Daggerheart, where the combo system was absolutely completely cracked, and was one-shotting bosses. But it's again, sometimes I'll bump into it, sometimes I'll theory craft it, but to me, I can't theory craft something completely BS and then not have it fit the flavor of the character. Cannonball was an eldritch mess with his soul being a timeshare. It made sense that he had 3 things in Warlock given to Ol Hydra, that he had a few weird things given to this witch, then he had a few levels given to whatever. So every time he basically made a contract, I'm like, okay, how's that going to change him? What little knickknacks and gimmicks and powers and whatever is he going to be able to squirrel away from that entity before that entity gets pissed off and decides to try to blow his head off, and then the others go, no, he's mine, and then they start a whole fight for his soul kind of thing. So it's kind of that. It's mix of flavor and mix of, I just enjoy theory crafting because I'm a nerd, and that's my fun.
That's fair. I appreciate that you can approach the theory crafting side of it while still staying away from the min-maxing side of it. A lot of people don't do that, and I've never met a good D&D player that enjoys when somebody else is min-maxing. So I do very much appreciate that you can look that far ahead without it having any sort of min-maxing impact on the character or the other people at the table.
So real quick, because I know Zoro wants to close, I think min-maxing is a waste of energy and a waste of time, because any DM worth their salt is just going to go no if you BS'd. If its rule is written, the GM has plenty of ways to play around it if they don't want to deal with your bullshit. So the whole gremlin thing, I've been a DM and I've had players bring gremlin min-maxing stuff to my game, and even that, I've never said no. Well, it's not. I've never said no to it. I've just adjusted the game to the level of gremlin min-maxing they bring to my table, which is fine. I'm okay with it. Go as crazy as you want. D&D is about your character and living out your power fantasy and having fun and going, oh, look at this epic cool thing I did. I just blasted half a castle to pieces. Sure. The castle is now animating itself. It's turning into a golem, and it's about to punch you in the face. Roll the dice. So I let the players choose the scale of the game that they want me to bring to the table, and I'll just adjust to them. So for me, again, the whole min-maxing gremlin thing, whatever, I don't really care, because it's not the point of the game. The point of the game is to tell a story together. Sorry for the rant.
I mean, it's a good rant, and I think the state that D&D is in these days allows the DM a lot more freedom to approach situations like that. I think most of the min-maxing and that type of play that we see these days is more coming from systems like Pathfinder and Starfinder, and where it's all very like there's a rule for absolutely everything. But because that isn't the case with D&D right now, it allows the DMs to adjust on the fly and to make up cool shit like a castle animating itself. And I think that's awesome.
Again, it really just depends on the awesomeness that the players decide to bring to the game too. Again, it's a story we're all telling together, and for me, that's the essence of D&D, and that's where, having fun kind of comes in. It's just, can we just have fun and tell a fun story together?
So I know we gotta go, but it was just funny. Spiffy just has one little question. Realm, if you manage to redeem your immortal soul and make your way to the heavens, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive to the pearly gates?
If Realm redeems, either slow clapping or just a booming voice that goes, "About damn time."
Tear to his eye. We made it. I get Has-Been Hotel vibes where they can be redeemed.
Yeah, exactly. After all the twists and turns and getting lost and sinning and this and that and blah, 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 you somehow stumble your way into salvation. Yeah, no, definitely slow clap and an about damn time with maybe a small tear in the eye. Yeah, exactly.
But yes, that was funny. But yes, we went well over what we were supposed to, but we're having fun, so I just want to make sure we got done at a somewhat decent time, because I know it's very late for the East Coasters. mainly Tilt.
Bad for going
So
over.
yeah.
I apologize. That's
Yeah.
on me. I rant. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's again, we have fun here, so it's all good. But yeah, thank you so much, Tilt, for joining us for this session. Really appreciate it, as we did pop your Behold Lore cherry. So
There we go. Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
Rojan, no, it made you laugh inside.
You know, there are phrases that you just don't need to hear in a day.
You know, it makes it extra
I
weird
am
when
to
it's your
please.
wife saying it too. When it's your wife saying it too, it's just like, you know.
In the words of Tilt, I aim to please and I please to aim. So.
Okay, look. There are many layers to that sentence that I'm not gonna unpeel. We're leaving that onion for, you know, some other day, alright?
But thank you guys again so much for your questions and joining us for today. This is not the only show that we have on this channel, as I totally wrote that wrong. There we go. As yes, we have multiple shows on this channel. Monday we have our longest running campaign of Destiny Forge on its 4th campaign, which will be tomorrow actually. And then we're having a very mini campaign alternating Mondays temporarily for that same time slot, which is our Avatar, The Last Airbender tabletop game called Escape from Varric Island. And then we have our alternating Tuesday game of Star Wars Tales of the Outer Rim, run by Tilt. Then we have our, which is also coming up, then we have our alternating Thursday games. We have Mass Effect Horizons, which is a Mass Effect 5e conversion game run by me. Then we have our alternating game of A New Era, run by Rojan. We have our Saturday games of Withered Wastes, run by Rojan. And then alternating that is Downfall of Propriety, which is run by Malls. And then starting this next Saturday, we are starting episode 1 of our Vigilant 6 West Coast game, run by Spiffy. So you don't want to miss out on that, as we kick up that game using the Masks tabletop system for that. Then we have our, that's going to be in the evening. And then we have our Wayward Wanderers Pathfinder Extinction Curse campaign. However, it is temporarily on hiatus for summer. Then we have, of course, this show, which is our once a month talk show where we all get together and pick a topic and a guest and just ask all sorts of fun questions and just kind of hang out. And then, of course, one last thing before we go. We are having a Bluey one-shot this upcoming Friday, which is something I'm running. It's a very simple homebrew system that I'm using because you guys are playing kids. It's not meant to be complicated. It's just going to be fun shenanigans of you guys going on an adventure as little 6-year-old dogs. And it's going to be adorable. So I'm looking forward to see what your guys' crazy imaginations are going to do for that game. But otherwise, you can find our campaigns, current and past, on our YouTube channel. So check them out there. Otherwise, we will see you guys next week for all the other horde of shows that we've got going on. Until then, you guys have a good night.
Thank you so much. Have a good night, guys.